Okay, so these guys held a press conference today regarding the firing of Ron Hextall. It was Paul Holmgren doing a lot of the talking, and you know it's interesting because I didn't necessarily think that Hextall would have got fired mid-season, but Comcast Spectator Chairman and CEO Dave Scott and Flyers president Paul Holmgren took questions. And what they've said is simple. Hextall had a vision. He had a vision of how he wanted the team to look, how he wanted the team to perform, and who he wanted on the roster, and he wasn't wavering. It didn't matter they were off to a slow start. It didn't matter the goaltending numbers were poor, and they sit 31st out of 31 teams in save percentage. That didn't matter to him. He had his vision, and he was sticking to it. And both Scott and Holmgren said, good for him, sticking to his vision, but we ousted him. So the idea being, yes, you can absolutely envision the team to be whoever you want, but in the end, you're not the boss. You're the general manager. This is why a lot of general managers like to be the boss as well. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I think Hextall did a decent job. But this is when you ask yourself, how long do you build for the future before you have to have the results now? Now, Philly made the playoffs last year, and this year they've regressed. They missed the playoffs the year before that. The year before that, they made it into the playoffs. At some point, you want to see a team contend. The interesting thing was, Paul Holmgren said that while they're searching for a general manager, he may go out and find a goalie himself. So without needing a general manager, he's going to go out and find a goalie. Now that, honestly, that unnerves me a little bit, only because I remember Paul Holmgren as a GM. He had kind of the opposite philosophy as Hextall. The patience wasn't really there. There was a lot of money being thrown at free agents, a lot of money being thrown at guys. And the one reassuring thing, if you're Hextall, is that Holmgren has made no decision about firing Hextall, but he has said the incoming GM will get to make that call. So it's kind of reassuring, but if the GM interview involves part of, are you planning on keeping or firing Dave Hextall? Keeping? We'll be in touch. Firing? You're hired. I'm just making that up. The interesting thing for me, though, is the fact that Holmgren said, I'm going to look for a goalie. The problem with this, Paul, is you were at the helm when the goaltending started to fall off a map. And depending on who you ask, goaltending's been bad since Hextall left, or goaltending's been bad since Bernie Perrant, and Hextall had one good season. I've seen that argument, too, that Hextall had one good season. That's not true, but I've seen it. And it's interesting, because then you have to ask yourself, okay, so Holmgren has to find a team that's willing to move a goaltender. They have to find a team that's willing to move a goaltender that either they've lost faith in, or they don't have room for. So I went through every team I could. I went through depth charts, and I looked up their cap hits as well, and their age, and this is what I came out with, and I went in reverse alphabetical order of the teams, and this is as best as I can go with it, because if he's talking about improving their goaltending, he means a veteran guy who's in the NHL right now, and there aren't a lot of them available. You might be able to get Jake Allen, and they might take Brian Elliott. You might be able to make that work for St. Louis. $4.35 million cap hit. He's 27 years of age. That's attractive in that you might be able to turn him around. 6-6-3 record, 3.27 goals against, 896 save percentage. Not great numbers, but the save percentage collectively for the Flyers right now is 880. The problem is Elliott's save percentage is 911. So you're downgrading the save percentage a little bit, putting in Allen. However, you'd be getting a little younger as well. Matt Murray. I know people are like, that's not going to happen. I agree. However, Murray might be on the market right now. 4-5-1 record, $3.75 million cap hit, 4.08 goals against, 877 save percentage. Let's say Murray isn't available. Let's say that Pittsburgh decides to make Jari the one that's available. Younger, great cap hit, and some team might be willing to take a chance on his potential. Since it's Pennsylvania, it wouldn't happen. The Pittsburgh Penguins will not be looking to make Philly a better team or help them with their goaltending, especially with where Pittsburgh is in the standings. So I only put Murray up there because to me he looks like a guy who could very well be available for the combination of all of these numbers and just for the fact that it looks like he's trending down and now he's injured. Cory Schneider. Schneider, 32 years of age, $6 million cap hit. He's definitely available. 0-5, 4.27 goals against, 863 save percentage. A change of scenery could absolutely help Cory Schneider's game. But Cory Schneider is in the same division as the Philadelphia Flyers right now. And again, making a trade in the division, and New Jersey's right down there with Philly. New Jersey, Philly, and Pittsburgh that are at the bottom. New Jersey's not going to want to take the risk of trading Schneider to Philly and watch him turn things around for Philly. They're not going to want to take that risk. And then they would need a goaltender back as well. And I don't think that there's necessarily a goaltender that New Jersey would want back from Philadelphia that would work. I don't know if Neuwirth may very well be done at the NHL level when he becomes healthy again. But Schneider's an interesting one and may very well be on the move. Just I can't see it to Philly. Jonathan Quick, and I've mentioned his name before. I'm going to go through this again because I know there are a lot of people that get attached to Jonathan Quick, and I get it. You know, he was great in 2012, great in 2014, but he's never been. How do I put this? He's a great clutch goaltender, and he had a solid season last year, but he's been injured most of this season, and 2 seasons ago, he only played 17 games due to injury. So when you've got a guy who's in his 30s, and 2 of his last 3 years have been injury riddled, and your team is rebuilding, and he makes $5.8 million, and your team has no cap space, you might be able to get something back for him. And Holmgren is in a position where he wants to win now. So he might be willing to give up future assets. Very attractive to a Kings team that needs to do a rebuild. And I think Quick would work. An 0-3-1 record, 4.55 goals against, 845 save percentage. The reason that I mention this too is because Cal Peterson in this call-up looks ready to be an NHL goaltender. Jack Campbell looks ready to be an NHL goaltender. Because they're rebuilding, you don't have to have Vezina-level goaltending out of either of them. Just average goaltending out of both of them. And once Campbell's healthy and Quick's healthy, I really honestly think he could end up being on the move. Again, for the reasons that I outlined above. If they're contending and Quick's playing well, he's not on the board. But they're rebuilding and Quick has been injured a lot. Cam Talbot's on the board. Everybody in Edmonton said yes. 30 years of age, 4.16 million, 5.9-1 record, 3.57 goals against, 889 save percentage. Cam Talbot had an excellent year 2 years ago, but it was an extension of excellent years he'd had before that. And he played very, very well as a fill-in. When Henrik Lundqvist got injured some years ago, Talbot went on an incredible run with New York. That is why he ended up being a starter in Edmonton, because he proved himself then. Talbot's had a bad run here. Now, the team in front of him hasn't been great either. I could see a change of scenery working out very, very well for Talbot. Talbot, to me, is probably the guy on the board that it seems most likely to me. And yet, can you sell to the Philadelphia fans, okay, I'm in charge, I got Hexy out, look, I got you Cam Talbot. I don't know that that's going to work. 30 years of age, he's still got some prime left, I would think. But his numbers haven't been stunning, especially at $4 million. Mike Smith, 36 years of age, 6-7-1 record, 3.29 goals against, 883 save percentage, 5.6 million, and 36 years of age. What works against Smith? His age works against him, but he's also probably the most popular player in the Calgary locker room. They love Mike Smith. Everybody on that team loves Mike Smith. Everybody on the coaching staff loves Mike Smith. Calgary is going to give Smith every single chance to reclaim his game and to get back to where he was not that long ago. And they're going to do everything they can to help him get there. I don't think he's actually on the market. And last but not least, Scott Darling. Darling is a healthy scratch for Carolina tonight. They have McElhinney starting and they have Mrazek as the backup. He's 29 years of age, has a $4.15 million cap hit, 2-4-1 record, 3.14 goals against, 892 save percentage. It slightly works against Philly that they're in the same division, but his numbers haven't been good since he's been in Carolina. They want to make a deal, but again, if Holmgren comes out and goes, all right, I got a Scott Darling, I don't know that that's going to wow the fans. When when you decide you're going to fix the goaltending, it is easier said than done. Goaltending is really, really tricky at the NHL level because I don't see any solid goaltenders having a really good year that a team's like, yep. As an example, Tuukka Rask in Boston. You could look at Halak and say, oh, he's having an excellent season. Maybe we could move Rask and get something back to help us through injuries. Boston absolutely would not do that. There's zero chance of that happening. And Stalock in Minnesota. Use Stalock as an example. He's having a good year as the backup. I don't see Minnesota deciding to move him. I really don't see a whole lot of other options. I thought about putting, like, I don't know, Kemper on the board. Like, it's hard for me to come up with somebody that I could say realistically is both available and Philadelphia would want or be able to get. And so there you go. Let me know what you guys think Holmgren's going to end up doing. Because, again, I remember him as GM of Philly. And I remember him giving a lot of guys a lot of money. And a lot of Band-Aids is how I remember it with him in Philly. That he would try to put a Band-Aid in place to make them, you know, a cup contender and a champion. And it just, you know, there were a lot of hits and misses in there. And it was kind of a mixed bag. I'd be interested to know your thoughts as a Philly fan. Are you excited about where things are going to go from here? Or with Holmgren back in charge at this point, does that kind of lead to one thinking that might be part of the problem? Interested to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, just tap it upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.